Hey, on this video, we're going to be talking about the 3 mistakes you're going to want to avoid if you're looking to buy a home with a VA loan. And if you stay tuned to the end, I'm going to give a bonus tip on how you can ask for repairs with a VA loan now that we're starting to move more into a buyer's market. Hi, my name is Dennis Henderson. I'm a licensed real estate agent with eXp Realty based out of the greater Tampa Bay area of Florida. If you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing, feel free to reach out to me, call, text, or in the description below is going to be a way that you can book a one-on-one meeting with me. Now let's jump into it. So the first mistake to look out for if you're getting a loan, especially if you're buying your first home with a VA loan, is to make sure that you understand what your closing costs are going to be. There's a common misconception that when you get a VA loan, typically you don't owe any money down. Well, that's true. You typically can get 100% financed on a VA loan. That's the benefit of taking a VA loan. Problem is, it's not just down payment that goes into that. There's additional closing costs and fees that go into a transaction, such as title fees, there's appraisal fees that are going to be involved, and a lot of other things that go into that. So a lot of the fees that are involved when you actually close on the property that you're typically going to have to pay for, even though you're getting 100% financing, is going to be things like the lender is going to charge points to be able to finance the loan. There's also potentially insurance that you're going to have to pay for, appraisals, inspections. So there are fees when you go to close on a property, and it really ranges from the price point that you're buying a house at. So make sure that you either talk to your agent or especially talk to the lender, because a lot of the fees are actually going to be coming from the lender for things that they order. Some other things are like you may have a survey that gets done that needs to be charged back as a part of the closing costs. Now, if you are buying your first home, or if you haven't owned a property for at least 3 years, there is a really good program, especially if you're buying in Florida, called the Hometown Heroes program. This may be available in your state as well. But with the Hometown Heroes program, if you're a first responder, which also includes veterans, active military, and a lot of other programs, check out the comment card above in the description below, where I talk about how the Hometown Heroes program actually gives you 5% down payment assistance and closing costs, to where in reality you could buy a home for maybe $500 to $1,000 when it's all said and done. Mistake number 2, if you're thinking about purchasing a condominium, make sure to check out the VA government website. I'm also going to have a link in the description below, and I'll show you what the website looks like. But a lot of condos are either not already approved, may have been rejected in the past, or you have to go through a drawn out process for the lender to actually submit and get approval, and that may take a month or two, and it could still not be approved. Before you write a contract on a condo, make sure that you follow the link, and I'll show you what that looks like, so you know whether you want to follow through with the condominium. All right, so as we can see here on the website that I have pulled up, this is the VA government website where you can actually find a lot of information about if a condo actually applies. All right, so if I'm looking for all the condominiums that are approved, say in Clearwater, Florida, I'm going to go ahead and run a search here and check approved, type Clearwater, Florida. And if I hit submit, this is going to show you that there's actually 2 pages of properties that are approved for condominiums within the city of Clearwater in Florida. So this will show you that accepted without conditions. Now let me go back and run another search here and show you what it would look like if I just ran anything in Clearwater, Florida. We can see here that the Park Place condominium was rejected back in 2022. What that means is that somebody, a lender, probably tried to apply to have this approved as a VA loan, and it got rejected. So not trying to go into too many details, that's just something that you want to look out for. Now, what happens if you actually search for a condominium and don't see anything on here? Well, if it hasn't been approved, again, your lender can submit something. It just means that nobody's submitted for that condominium within the records that are on here in the past. And that's something that your lender would need to submit, again, if you have the time to be able to purchase that property. Now, if you're trying to buy something quickly within 30 days, definitely make sure that this is something that shows up before you submit the offer on that property. Another thing to look out for as we're talking about condominiums is there's something known as a warrantable versus a non-warrantable condominium. And basically, if condominiums have about 80 to 85% of the properties that are rented, so let's say it's a majority population in that all the units are being rented, a lender actually isn't going to lend on a property. So that's one thing that you're really going to want to talk to your agent about to understand, is that a property that can even get a loan on it in the first place if that's what you're looking to do. Now, if you're looking to pay cash, this really doesn't affect you. But again, in this video, we're talking about the VA loan program and things that you want to look out for. Mistake number 3, purchasing a property that has repairs that are going to be needed before the property can be approved for financing. So when you're getting a VA loan, there's something called the minimum property requirement. And this is something that when a VA appraiser goes out to a property and takes a look at it, they're going to be looking at a couple key things. And conventional loans have a lot less strict guidelines, but when it comes to a VA, they're wanting to make sure that the property is habitable. And we're going to be talking about some of the things that you're going to want to look out for, especially if you're buying in Florida. So one of the things that's important to understand in Florida is there's something called a 4-point inspection, which basically 4-point inspections are the 4 major items to a house. That's your roof, your AC, your electric, and your plumbing. As I'm going through a property, and one thing that you're going to want to look out for is what is the age of the roof. When it comes to roof and AC in Florida, there was a law that was passed that insurance companies have to be able to insure a property if the AC and the roof is at least 15 years or newer. But if it's over 15 years, especially for the roof, a lot of insurance companies are looking to make sure there's at least 5 years life expectancy. So anytime you start getting close to 20 years on either the air conditioner or the roof, those are 2 things you really need to look out for. And that's something that you may want to either ask for those to be repaired before you purchase those property. That's something that you may want to ask for when you write the contract on that property. Now, when it comes to electric, the main thing that I find, especially in older homes that we look at, the appraisers are going to be looking for either cloth wiring, aluminum wiring to make sure that the electric panel is up to date. There's some electric panels that are no longer up to code. So this is a hard thing if you're not in the business to understand what qualifies and what doesn't. Just make sure you get with a really good agent or talk to an inspector and have them look at the property to see if that's something that would pass an appraisal before you decide to move forward with the property. Some other things that really surprise people when they start looking at properties is things like open junction boxes, maybe wall plates that are missing, or red flags that our appraiser is going to call out that has to be repaired before the lender's going to lend on it as well. And some other things to look out for is either chip paint inside or outside the house, mostly outside, stress cracks that are maybe on the foundation, or if you have a block wall and there's a little bit of stress crack through there, that has to be repaired before the lender will lend on the property. And another thing to look out for is if there's holes through the drywall or in the ceiling inside the property, those will typically get called out as well. So just make sure that you know that before you write a contract, and that's something that you want to negotiate on. So you stay tuned to the end. So we're going to give you a bonus tip on how to ask for repairs if you start looking through a property and you find some of these things that I talked about. So my first suggestion is try to negotiate in the offer for the seller to replace items. Now we're starting to move more into a buyer's market as the market's starting to shift a little bit as of this recording, middle of 2022. Now my first suggestion when you're asking for repairs is just try to negotiate in the deal. So if you find some of these things that I talked about on this video that need to be repaired, just work with your agent and try to ask the seller to actually repair them at their expense before closing. Because ultimately, if you can get that done and negotiate in the deal, that's the best approach is number 1. Now, as we're shifting more into a buyer's market, this option may be a little bit easier. Now, what happens if you're working with a seller and they say either they're not going to repair it, or one of the more common things they'll do is give a seller credit? Well, if you're getting a VA loan, one thing that a lot of VA lenders will allow you to do is actually hold 1.5 times the amount that the repair is going to cost in escrow. So for example, let's say that an air conditioner needs to be replaced and the estimate that comes back is $5,000. Well, if you negotiate with the seller that they're willing to put a credit towards that repair, what happens if that $5,000 is what it costs as the estimate, but the lender is going to require 1.5 times, which is $7,500. So the seller, I would try to negotiate first to put $7,500 towards escrow. And then after the property closes, the title company pays the air conditioning company. And then you can just write in the contract where the rest of the money goes. So if the seller is putting in $7,500, I would suggest having them get the money back. And then this way you can close on the loan, and that would usually be approved from a lender through underwriting. Do me a favor, leave a comment below and share this video to somebody that you know is looking to purchase property with a VA loan that this might be able to help out. Hey, hopefully this was a help for you. Again, my name is Dennis Henderson. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you're notified anytime we release new videos on this channel. See you on the next one.